Hey there, welcome back to my kitchen. In today's video, we're going to make 3 really delicious Sunday dinners along with a really fun Sunday dinner dessert. All of today's recipes are very family friendly and very comforting, cozy meals. I think these meals are perfect to have on Sundays, whether you go to church or not. This is a great reason to invite your family over, invite your friends over, have a nice meal together, have some good conversation, and just enjoy each other's company. So let's go ahead and get started, and I will show you how to make these awesome recipes. First up today, this recipe is one of my favorite recipes ever to make because I'm a garlic lover. We're making this creamy garlic chicken and mashed potatoes. To begin, I have about 1.5 chicken breasts here. I'm going to go ahead and half both of these. And for the bigger pieces of chicken, I'm going to cut them in half again so that I have 6 pieces of chicken. Now we're going to go ahead and season this chicken on both sides with a little bit of salt, pepper, and garlic powder. Now you're going to need some fresh garlic. Usually I just use the garlic out of the jar. It's easier and I really hate the stickiness of garlic. However, for this recipe, I do like to use these whole cloves. So once you have about 4 to 5 of those cloves out, you can go ahead and just slice them all in half. Now moving over to my skillet, I've already added a tablespoon of butter and a tablespoon of avocado oil in here. Once they're nice and hot, you can go ahead and start adding in your chicken. You'll just need to cook this for a couple minutes on each side until it gets this beautiful golden color on it and the inside is reaching 165 degrees. Once the chicken is done cooking, I'm going to go ahead and remove that over to a plate. And now using the same pan, I'm going to add those garlic halves in there, and we're going to let those brown up on each side. Once those have some really good color on them, I'm going to go ahead and add in 1 tablespoon of all-purpose flour. Mix that flour in there. You're going to want to let that flour absorb all the liquid out of this pan. Once all the liquid is gone and you've let the flour cook for about a minute or so, then you're going to add in a half cup of low sodium chicken broth. Now you're again just going to let that flour absorb all that chicken broth and it's going to get a lot thicker. After you get it looking something like this, then you're going to add in 1 cup of heavy whipping cream, or you can use half and half, but half and half will make it a little bit thinner. Then once the sauce is thickening up once again, and you notice that the color is changing to more of a tan beige color, now is the time to go ahead and add in your Parmesan cheese. I just added in a handful of Parmesan cheese, I'd say around 1/4 cup. Go ahead and taste test this. I like to add a little bit of pepper into mine. I don't really think it needs more salt at this point, especially adding the Parmesan in. Add the chicken back in and cover it with the sauce and just let it heat up for about a minute or 2. Once it's all done, it should be looking something like this, and while all this was cooking, I went ahead and cooked some mashed potatoes and some Italian style green beans as well. Here's what my finished plate looked like in the end. This again, like I said, one of my favorite meals. I love the garlic. We enjoy adding the sauce over our potatoes as well, and I gotta say that my sister-in-law made this recipe or one similar while we were on vacation a couple years ago. It's one of my top 10 favorite dinners. It's so good. If you love garlic, you'll like this a lot. Next, we're gonna make this super simple crockpot fettuccine. You're gonna love how easy this one is. To begin, in the bottom of my nice big crock pot, I'm adding 1 jar of spaghetti sauce. Then you're also going to add 1 jar of Alfredo sauce. I do like to add a little water into those jars, shake them around, and get the remaining sauce out of there. Give this a quick little mix together. It does not have to be perfect. We're going to end up mixing it again later anyways. You just want to kind of get it a little bit combined. And now you're going to add in 2 chicken breasts. If you want to, you can add a 3rd one in there, but it just wasn't necessary for us. On top of the chicken, I'm going to sprinkle them with some garlic powder, Italian seasoning, parsley, salt, pepper, oregano, and red pepper flakes. And that's it. You're just going to add your lid on and let this cook on a low heat for about 5 hours. Here's what it should look like when it's all done. I did go ahead and just remove those chicken breasts out of there. I am going to slice them up. If you want to shred them, you can do that, but we really like the bigger pieces in here. Then about 20 minutes before your chicken is actually done, you can go ahead and cook up 1 box of fettuccine noodles. And once they're done, drain the water and add them straight in here. Then over the top, I'm going to add my sliced chicken. And then on top of the chicken, I'm going to add some freshly shredded mozzarella cheese. If you have Parmesan cheese, you can add that on top as well, but mozzarella will be fine on its own. I added some parsley over the top, added the lid, and let this melt for about 5 to 10 minutes, and it was ready to go. Here's what my plate looked like in the end. This recipe is extremely simple. It really couldn't get much more simple than this. I added some breadsticks into the oven. That's where that breadstick came from, and it paired perfectly along with this. I personally like to dip my breadstick in the sauce. It's so good, and I promise you this is one of the simplest meals you can make. It does not take a lot of effort, and it can feed a decent amount of people. Next up, another great meal here. We're making some beef and gravy over mashed potatoes. To begin, you really don't need a large crock pot. You can use a smaller one like this. I'm adding 1 pound of beef stew meat. I believe this was about 1.25 pounds. Now we're going to add some seasonings. You'll need just a couple shakes of salt and pepper. And then you'll need a ½ teaspoon of garlic powder, a ½ teaspoon of onion powder, and a ½ packet of au jus gravy mix. Then you're going to add a ½ cup of beef broth and give this a little mix. Next, you're going to take about 2 tablespoons of butter. I just went ahead and sliced those, and then you're just going to add that right over the top. Now add on your lid and let this cook on a low heat for about 5 to 6 hours. You want your meat to be falling apart when it's all done. Now getting started on the mashed potatoes, I washed about 6 or 7 potatoes, removed the skin, and then cubed them up. I'm going to let those boil while I get my green beans started. So when I make green beans like this out of the can, what I like to do is add the entire can in, 1 tablespoon of salted butter, and 1 teaspoon of this all-purpose seasoning mix here. This seasoning has been my favorite for a while. It's just so good. I let these boil over a medium-high heat until all the liquid has disappeared, and then they're ready to eat. At this time, the potatoes should be done as well. I'm going to go ahead and drain those off. For my mashed potatoes, I really truly don't measure anything. I add a good amount of butter in there, try to let that butter melt down a little bit, And then I add in some milk or half and half, whichever I have. I also like to add some sour cream into mine. And then I season them well with salt, pepper, and a little bit of garlic powder. And if I'm just making a smaller amount like this, I will just use my little hand masher, and it should end up looking something like this. In the end, what you'll want to do is just serve that meat and gravy right over top of your mashed potatoes. As you can see, that meat is so tender. Again, just serving it with those green beans that I quickly made, and some corn on the cob that I microwaved. If you microwave corn, it is such an easy way to make corn on the cob. If you are making this for a lot of people, I would double this recipe though for the meat. Last but not least, I decided to throw a dessert recipe in here for you because this cake turned out so good. I'm so glad I filmed it. To begin, we're going to go ahead and mix 2 boxes of this super moist French vanilla cake mix. I do recommend using this specific cake mix for this recipe. Into my large mixing bowl, I added both packages of the cake mix in there. Then following the package directions, I'm going to go ahead and add in 6 eggs, 2/3 cup of oil, and 2 cups of water. Go ahead and get that all mixed together, making sure to scrape the bottom. This cake is going to require 3 separate layers, so I'm going to divide my cake batter into 3 equal parts. This pan here has a removable piece, so you can remove the sides very easy. It's about 8 inches big. I'll try to link something similar down in the description box for you. I added 1/3 of my batter, and then I hit this around a little bit to make sure all the bubbles were out of my batter. Then following the box directions, I'm just going to go ahead and bake this in the oven. This is what your cake should be looking like after it's all done. Like I said, you will need 3 of these, so I went ahead and removed that and repeated with the 2nd and 3rd layer. While my cakes are cooling, I'm going to go ahead and get started on my strawberries. For this first part, you will need 2 cups of sliced strawberries. After you get them sliced, add them into a bowl, that way this part is nice and easy. You're also going to need about 2 to 3 tablespoons of strawberry jelly. You'll add that into a separate bowl and microwave it for about 30 seconds, that way it's a little bit thinner. And you're going to just mix it right in with those berries. Moving on, we're pretty much going to do the exact same thing we just did. However, with this one, you only need 1 cup of strawberries, and this time you're going to cube them up into smaller pieces. Once you have your 1 cup of strawberries, you're going to do the same thing with the jelly, but this time you only need 1 tablespoon. Mix that 1 tablespoon of jelly in with those chopped strawberries and just set all of those aside for now. Back over to my mixing bowl, we're going to go ahead and get started on the icing. Into my bowl first, I'm just adding 1 8-ounce block of cream cheese. This cream cheese was not room temperature, however it was not rock solid from being in the fridge. I let it sit out for about 20 minutes or so. Then once you mix up that cream cheese a little bit, you're going to add 3/4 teaspoon of vanilla extract, along with 1 cup of powdered sugar. I'm going to mix this just a little bit here, and then I'm going to start adding in about 2 1/4 cups of heavy whipping cream, kind of slow, that way it can mix in nicely. Once all of your heavy cream is in here, you just want to mix this for about 5 minutes or so until you're getting some stiff peaks in the icing. This is about the best mine was doing. It was creating peaks, just not as stiff as I wanted them to. It was pretty hot in my kitchen, so it's kind of to be expected, but I still went ahead and used the icing at this point. But if you can get yours a little bit thicker than this, that's ideal. Now I have this little cardboard piece here for my cake. I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of frosting onto the bottom and then add my first layer of cake on there. That icing is just going to act kind of like glue and hold that cake onto the cardboard. Next, you'll start adding on your icing to your cake. And for this, you want to add more icing than I do. I did not add enough icing just because mine was a lot thinner than it was supposed to be. But if yours is thicker, you'll want to make sure you take the icing all the way to the edges and put it on there nice and thick. Next, you're going to take 1 cup of your sliced strawberries and add that on there. Try to spread them out in an even layer. And now we're just going to go ahead and repeat everything we just did with the icing in the other cup of sliced strawberries. If your icing is thicker, you'll be able to really fill in the gaps between the cake. As you can see, there's a little bit of a gap down between mine. That's literally just because my icing was too thin to really fill in that space. But if I'm being honest with you, it really didn't matter in the end. This was still so good, and it was plenty of icing. And now for the third and final layer, we're going to do this basically the same way, except this time we're going to be adding on our chopped strawberries. And that's all there is to it. This is what your cake should be looking like in the end. If your icing is thicker, you can really fill in those gaps a little bit more, but honestly, this turned out so good. I could not believe how good this cake was. We ate this in just a couple days, I'm embarrassed to say, but it was just so yummy. I honestly cannot wait to make this for my family. I think they will absolutely love it. But here's what it looks like when it is all done. I went ahead and put it on my cake serving tray, and it just looked so beautiful. And then here is what one single slice looks like. You can see all those nice layers. This cake was so soft, and just the flavors all came together really nicely. I was a little unsure of adding the jelly in with the strawberries, but you honestly can't even tell it's jelly, and they complement each other so well. And if you want to, you can even ice the sides, but I don't really think you need to. Thank you so much for watching today. I do hope that you enjoyed. I'd love to know down below in the comments which recipe was your favorite. And don't forget to leave me a flower as well down there. I will see you guys back here on Wednesday for a new video. Bye!